In August 2026, Dolly Parton passed away. The world believed it knew why cancer. But when the autopsy results were quietly released, what they found inside told a different story, not just about her final months, but about a hidden battle that began years earlier, kept secret from even her closest fans. The public was given a simple explanation. The truth was far more complex and disturbing. Dolly Parton was one of the most beloved figures in American history. Born into poverty in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee, she rose from nothing to become a global icon. Her songs, Jolene, I Will Always Love You, 9 to 5, defined generations. They were more than just music. They were anthems for the broken-hearted, the dreamers, and the working class. She built Dollywood, a theme park that brought jobs and tourism to her hometown. She donated millions to charity. She even helped fund Moderna's COVID vaccine research, a contribution that saved countless lives. Known for her towering blonde wigs, sparkling outfits, and warm smile, she represented resilience, humor, and kindness. She was the woman who turned rhinestones into a symbol of hope. To the world, she was untouchable. But the final chapter of her life was not told on stage. It was written in hospital rooms and private documents. When her representatives announced her death on August 25, 2026, they stated she had died after a brief battle with cancer. The news was met with grief from millions. Fans around the world mourned. Tributes poured in. Yet, behind that simple statement, an entirely different reality was unfolding. The true cause of death, hidden within the autopsy report, would later reveal a story she had spent years concealing. The woman who gave so much of herself to the world had been quietly fading behind closed doors, and no one knew the full extent of the damage. The cancer story was true, but it was only one piece of a much larger and more disturbing puzzle. For the last 6 months of her life, Dolly Parton was not the same woman the public saw on screen. Behind the glamour, she was reportedly losing weight, losing her hair, and largely confined to her bed. Her health had deteriorated far beyond what she ever admitted. Sources close to the singer claimed she had only trusted a very small, intimate circle with the truth. The public was given carefully controlled glimpses, filtered photos, brief video messages, and reassuring statements. But those images were not reality. They were a carefully constructed illusion meant to protect her legacy. The woman who had built her career on authenticity was now performing her most difficult role, pretending she was okay. In interviews, she blamed her health issues on digestive problems, kidney stones, and the stress of caring for her late husband, Carl Dean. She told People magazine just days before her death that she had been dealing with health problems she didn't pay attention to while watching over him. She said she was still healing, still working, but insiders claimed the truth was much darker. Her immune system had reportedly been compromised for years, and the toll of that hidden battle had been quietly accumulating. She did not want her fans to see the deterioration. She wanted them to remember the Dolly they loved, the sparkling, unstoppable force of nature who could conquer any stage. That Dolly was real, but she was also fading, and she was determined to keep that fact a secret for as long as possible. The autopsy would not just reveal how she died. It would reveal what she had been hiding and why. Before the cancer diagnosis became public, Dolly Parton had been dealing with a series of alarming health issues that she tried to keep quiet. Reports surfaced that she had been hospitalized just days before her death for kidney and autoimmune issues. Her immune system, according to those familiar with her medical condition, had become severely compromised over the previous few years. She had complained about digestive problems, dehydration, and dizziness symptoms that she publicly downplayed as minor setbacks. She told interviewers she was just tired. She blamed the heat. She blamed the stress of touring. But internally, her body was struggling. The symptoms were not going away. They were getting worse. In the years following her husband's death in March 2025, she had reportedly neglected her own health while caring for him. She admitted as much in her final interview. But what she did not say was that the neglect may have allowed a deeper condition to take root. The autoimmune issues, the kidney concerns, the chronic exhaustion, these were not isolated incidents. They were warning signs. And they painted a picture of a woman whose body had been under siege long before the cancer was ever detected. The autopsy would later reveal the extent of this underlying damage and how it may have accelerated her decline. Her medical records told a story of a body that was slowly breaking down, piece by piece. The cancer was not the beginning. It was the final blow. Something else had been attacking her from the inside for years. Throughout her health struggles, Dolly Parton maintained an image of strength and optimism. In May 2026, when she canceled her Las Vegas residency, she told fans she was responding really well to meds and treatments, and that she was improving. She continued to appear in videos, always with her signature wig and makeup intact. She introduced a new roller coaster at Dollywood via video in August, explaining that she was simply dehydrated. Days before her death, she was still insisting that she was working and healing. The public had no reason to suspect the severity of her condition. Her voice sounded the same. Her smile looked the same. Everything seemed fine. But behind the scenes, those who knew her described a very different situation. According to sources, she relied heavily on filters, makeup, and careful lighting to maintain her appearance. Her wigs were essential because she had little hair of her own. The effort that went into each public appearance was immense. It was not vanity. It was a conscious choice to protect the image her fans had loved for decades. The woman who had spent her entire career being underestimated as a dumb blonde understood the power of her persona. She was determined to control her narrative to the very end, even as her body gave out. The autopsy would reveal the physical cost of that performance. The public saw strength. The autopsy would reveal the quiet surrender that was happening beneath the surface. The official cause of death was a brief battle with cancer, but the timeline told a different story. According to her medical records and the testimony of those close to her, she had been in serious decline for at least 6 months before her death. She had stopped taking on new projects. She rarely left her Tennessee home. She had reportedly lost significant weight and was often confined to bed. The cancer was described as brief, but the underlying health issues had been developing for much longer. Her body had been weakened by years of hidden struggles. The cancer simply exposed what was already broken. In the final days, she was admitted to the Vanderbilt Ingram Cancer Center in Nashville. Her nephew and former head of security, Brian Seaver, announced her death on August 25 in a pre-recorded video that she had asked him to make years earlier. The family's statement spoke of her bravery and her legacy, but the autopsy report, which was released quietly afterward, contained details that raised new questions. It documented not just the cancer, but a constellation of other conditions that had weakened her body to the point where she could not fight back. The cancer may have been the final act, but the play had been running for much longer. When the full report surfaced, it revealed a condition that had no easy explanation, something that disturbed even the medical experts who examined it. The autopsy findings confirmed the cancer, but they also revealed something unexpected: extensive damage to her immune system and organs that went far beyond what could be explained by the cancer alone. She had been suffering from chronic kidney issues and autoimmune complications that had quietly progressed for years. Her body, according to medical sources, had been fighting a losing battle against an internal breakdown long before the cancer was detected. The combination of these conditions had created a perfect storm. It was not just one disease, it was a cascade of failures, each one making the next worse. What made the findings disturbing was not just the extent of the damage, but the fact that it had been largely hidden from her medical team until it was too late. She had reportedly prioritized her husband's care over her own health in the years before his death, and by the time she began seeking serious treatment, the damage was already severe. The autopsy painted a picture of a woman who had been quietly suffering while continuing to smile for the cameras. The stark contrast between her public image and her physical reality was the most troubling part of the report. It suggested a long, silent decline that no one had fully witnessed. The report asked more questions than it answered, and one question, in particular, would linger: why didn't anyone know? Dolly Parton's decision to hide her health struggles was not an accident. It was a deliberate choice made by a woman who understood the power of perception. She had spent her entire career managing her image, turning vulnerability into strength and hardship into art. She knew that her fans saw her as a symbol of hope and perseverance. She did not want them to see her as a victim. The autopsy may have revealed the truth about her physical decline, but was also revealed a woman who controlled her narrative to the very end. She was not going to let anyone write her story for her, not even death. The secrecy extended to her inner circle. According to reports, only a few people knew the full extent of her condition. Even her public statements about her health were carefully calibrated to offer reassurance without revealing the truth. When she admitted to having health issues, she framed them as temporary setbacks. When she canceled appearances, she cited minor reasons. She made sure the world remembered her as the sparkling, unstoppable Dolly, not as a woman who was quietly wasting away. The autopsy report, in a sense, was the final truth that she could no longer control, and it left the world wondering what else she had kept hidden. The truth about her death is now public, but it raises a deeper question. Was this always the plan, or did something else happen? Dolly Parton lived a life of contradiction. She was a poor girl who became a billionaire. She was a woman who was underestimated for her appearance but owned her empire. She was a public figure who built her brand on openness but kept her deepest struggles private. The autopsy report, in its cold, clinical detail, strips away the glamour. It reveals a human being who was fragile and mortal, just like everyone else. But it also reveals a woman who chose to spend her final months protecting the legacy she had built for 60 years. She did not want sympathy. She did not want pity. She wanted to be remembered as she had always been larger than life. The disturbing part of the findings is not that she had cancer or that her body had been weakened. It is the gap between what the world believed and what was really happening. She was smiling on screen while losing weight in secret. She was reassuring fans while her organs were failing. She was the life of the party while quietly slipping away. That contrast, the effort it took to maintain the illusion, is what makes the truth so haunting. The autopsy may have answered the question of how she died, but it also showed how she lived on her own terms, with her own secrets, until the very last breath. And perhaps that was the greatest performance of all. The story of Dolly Parton's final months is not a story of scandal or conspiracy. It is a story about the weight of a legacy, the power of a public image, and the quiet, private struggles that even the brightest stars carry alone. The autopsy is a document, but what it reveals is the cost of being larger than life.